I am the house at 542 Crooked Brook Drive. I remember the day Margaret Forrester and her son Tanner, with the brilliantly bright blonde hair, arrived on my doorstep. Mother and son had been on the run for months, always one step ahead of Margaret's abusive husband, Tom. They had been bouncing between living in a car and staying in shelters since their escape. So when they arrived, exhausted and desperate for a place to call home, I welcomed them with open doors and a warm fire blazing in the hearth. I was so glad to have a new family to fill my walls with life once more. I had sat empty for so long, abandoned but still in decent shape, and I sat hidden in the woods, on the outskirts of a small town that had fallen victim to a crumbling economy. Could I be the ideal hiding place for mother and son? It didn't take long for me to get cleaned up and in reasonable shape. They had been with me for 6 months now, with no appearances from Tom, and had finally started to relax, just a bit. Margaret had spent the past few days planning for Tanner's 10th birthday tomorrow. They sat at the dining room table, singing a song about an old man and his dog, making decorations out of old newspapers Margaret had found in my basement. It was the happiest I'd ever seen them. That all changed when a loud knock came from the front door. Tanner looked at his mother with fear in his eyes. Margaret was clearly worried, her voice trembling as she sent Tanner to his room. She had put on a brave face, but the fear in her eyes was unmistakable. Tanner could only muster a deep sigh before he reluctantly followed her instructions. He headed up the stairs, leaving the foreboding aura of the unknown looming behind him. Margaret didn't have the chance to open the door. Rather, a man who I recognized only from a box of photos she kept in her bedroom closet burst through my door and stumbled drunkenly into my hall. The energy that came off him was a repulsive cloud of pure evil. It clung to my walls like cobwebs Margaret had spent so much time removing when they first arrived. Tom. He yelled and screamed, demanding that Tanner come to him this second. Margaret begged and pleaded with him just to talk to her, let her explain, and leave their son out of it. Despite Margaret's attempts to reason with him, Tom's fury still blazed. He lashed out in frustration, slapping his wife across the face before pulling a gun out of the back of his pants and aiming it at Margaret's head. "Upstairs," he shouted, swinging the gun wildly towards the stairs. The air was filled with tension and fear as Margaret slowly ascended the stairs with her husband, his gun gripped tightly between his hands. I could tell she was doing her best to keep calm and focused on her, hoping to avoid any further outbursts. She led him down the corridor, past Tanner's room, and into her own bedroom. But no sooner did the door close behind them, a loud bang reverberated through the hall, shaking my windows. Within seconds, Margaret came staggering out of the bedroom, blood pouring from a gaping wound in her stomach. Tom followed closely behind her. Tanner huddled in his bedroom doorway just as his mother stumbled past. Tom grabbed the gun and spun Margaret by the arm before taking her by the throat. He held her captive, teetering over the top step of the long staircase. That all happened so fast. All I could do was watch in horror as Margaret clawed at her husband with blood-stained hands, desperate to break free. An eerie smile spread across Tom's face as, without warning, he released his hold. Her face contorted in terror as the realization hit. His grip was the only thing that stood between her and gravity's pull. And as if in slow motion, Margaret managed one final glance at Tanner before plummeting down the stairs. She landed at the bottom in a tangle of broken limbs, her neck bent awkwardly to one side. Blood began to pool, its warmth seeping into the hardwood floors beneath her lifeless body. I could feel Margaret's anger and pain flowing through me with every drop of her blood I absorbed. Her desperate need to save her son became my own. Tom's focus turned to Tanner, and something snapped inside me. My walls reverberated with a scream that couldn't possibly be mine, yet it flowed from deep within me like a tidal wave of grief and hatred. Tanner backed into his room, away from his father as he approached. His light blue eyes were wide with fear, and his hands shook as he clasped them tightly over his ears to block out the sound. Tom wouldn't take another step towards his son. I could sense Margaret's presence was getting stronger by the second, filling every part of me as we became one. Tanner's door slammed, closing him off from what was about to come. He had already seen too much for someone so young. The floorboards buckled under Tom's feet, refusing to allow him to move forward. I could feel Margaret's strength, her determination, her love for her son, all of it coursing through me. Losing his balance, Tom's head hit the banister with a loud crack that filled me with a new sense of power. No, Margaret's scream came with a new explosion of energy that sent Tom stumbling further down the narrow corridor. The force of Margaret's scream was so strong that it caused the oil lantern to flicker and glow brighter, as if it were being amplified by her voice. With another uncontrollable cry, the lantern was flung off its table, smashing against Tom's chest and setting him ablaze. Tom screamed as the flames licked at his skin, reaching out to consume him. He tried to run, but suddenly Margaret appeared, blocking his way, her dead eyes staring up at him coldly. He stumbled backwards, tripping over a chair and falling towards the window at the far end of the corridor. The glass shattered as he hit it, and he tumbled out, his body now engulfed in flames. Margaret watched dispassionately as he fell, his screams echoing in the night. Finally, Tom was silent, his charred body laying still on the ground. Margaret turned away from the window, her work now done. She would never have to fear him again, and neither would Tanner. Tanner was taken into protective custody soon after that fateful night, and I think about him often. I still feel Margaret here with me, though I haven't seen her since that night. The small town has seen many changes during the last 25 years, and even I had a makeover in preparation for my incoming owners. A newly hung sold sign now sits in my freshly manicured yard. I'm nervous as the minivan stops at the end of my brand new driveway, but that nervousness turns to joy as a familiar blonde-haired man with piercing blue eyes walks toward me, his pregnant wife and 2 kids in tow. "Tanner," I heard Margaret whisper. "He's home." Hey everyone, thanks for watching tonight's video. Big thanks to Shrouded Heart for letting me narrate this story on the channel for you guys. You can find more of her personified home series on her Reddit page, which I'll link below. If you liked this video, be sure to like and subscribe for more videos just like this one. If you guys have any feedback or there's anything you want to see on the channel in the future, be sure to leave a comment or message me on Instagram, which I'll also link below. I'd also like to thank you guys for your support in getting us to over 200 subscribers. I really appreciate you all. And as always, good night.